And Dave gives us a go ahead. We're good.
Okay. Call meeting to order. Roll call.
Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright? Mr. Wright, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Mr. Hennis?
Present?
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
And
Here.
Ms. Hawkins?
Here. Okay, so in order to save a little bit of time, I would like to move on item B, because that's going to be the major topic of discussion to last, and go ahead and if we'll do item C through F. Is that agreeable?
That's great.
Okay. So C, personnel. Move to approve the retirement of Sylvia Tapia and attendance clerk on August 21st, and termination of Priscilla Melendez security on August 13th.
I'll move. Jack Hennis moved.
Second,
I second.
discussion?
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins?
Yes. Okay, D, move to approve the 2021 substitute teachers as presented to be paid through ESI, Diane Shook, Rick Moore, Thomas Rush, Kevin Myers, Shirley Kovacs, Manuel Quintanar, sorry about that, Jennifer Duran, Mark Meyer, Paul Aroni, Eric Bray, Jesus Belna, Marquise Matthews, and Debbie Sam. Motion, anybody move?
Sure, I'll move. This Jack, I'll move. I will second those.
Discussion?
That's very cool. You got Manuel Keenar and Debbie Sam, some classic teachers from the district.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
And Ms. Hawkins?
Yes. Okay, item E, we move to approve the COVID-19 revisions to the 2021-301 plan as presented.
So moved. I'll second. Jack second.
Discussion?
Just the only discussion was that all 137, looked like everybody was in complete support of this.
Yes, they were. We taken some time and some consideration, but the committee was all in favor.
Okay. And we're gonna have money?
Yes, we will have money. So, and they will, as always, they will have to demonstrate they have completed all the tasks and responsibilities to receive that money.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Call
Mr.
for
Wright?
question.
Okay, Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis? Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins?
Yes. Okay, and then item F, move to approve the proposal from CGI Communications to install a rooftop tower at Caspian Union High School.
So moved. I second that. Discussion? Yeah, I just wanted to ask on that because I need a clarification. I know that I talked to Dr. Beebe on that. That was a $500 a month that we'll be receiving from CGI. But as far as the maintenance on that and any trouble that they have with it, that's all on the CG
Yes, it is.
communication.
Yes, it's up to the company to maintain their equipment to our satisfaction, and make sure everything is up and functioning. We are just, while their service will benefit students and families in our district, the district benefits from them existing monthly, from them existing on our campus.
So that sounds like a win-win situation as far as I'm concerned.
I believe it is. They are not quite to the magnitude of some of our, T-Mobile and some of those bigger companies, but they will definitely be providing a much needed service to many families in our district.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question. The discussion I had was also the same point and was the $500 is the
sufficient recoup for the district for the use of our facilities.
Yeah.
I know that it's their own antenna, et cetera, that's going up there, but we're sitting in a kind of a catbird seat for them. And just this question, I kind of posed the question before was, there was, just as a potential, there wasn't any way, they're charging $42, $50, $100 a month to the people that are hooked up to the internet. Was there not something that, to maybe negotiate a break for, students or kind of, since you might have a kind of captive customer? I just asking.
Yeah. That was a discussion. And again, like I said, it was one of those things that there wasn't necessarily a break. That we could either take it, we could either have them and allow them to be there, or we could deny that, and because it does benefit students, we were in favor of them being there.
That's great. I mean, as long as you pose the question, that's all I wanted to ask.
Yes.
That's great. Call for the
Dr.
question.
Beebe,
Yes.
Dr. Beebe, did I read in there there's also a possibility that for an increase in fees for additional services provided by CGI?
Yes.
Okay.
So if there would be an increase, then yes, that we can do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any more questions?
That's all.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis? Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
And Ms. Hawkins?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to item B, consideration and approval of a date for Cascade Union High School and High School District to begin the modified in-person instruction.
So, President Hawkins, members of the governing board, thank you. And that was the main reason for coming together today. I've tried to keep you guys in the loop and as much communication as feasibly possible. As you know, that last week, we did finally receive benchmarks from the Arizona Department of Health Services. There are 3 different benchmarks that they are suggesting that school districts and school boards use in consideration for when it might be safe to reopen your schools. We originally had set the date of August 17th, which is Monday, prior to these benchmarks coming out. Now that they are out, and I shared that data with you, it looks like about 9 a.m. on Thursday mornings is when the data is going to refresh, because is shortly after 9 is when I saw the new data today. If you look at those 3 benchmarks, the first benchmark, which is in number of cases, 100 per 100,000, we have 2 consecutive weeks of a downturn. That is a checkbox or a green for us. And if you look at the COVID-like illnesses, which is the 3rd benchmark, we too have 2 weeks of positive data and it has green and checkbox for us. It's important though to remember that data is 2 weeks ago. So it's always 2 weeks in the rear. So it's the most current data that's being reported was as of July 26th. The one middle benchmark, number 2, which I believe is going to be the benchmark that we're going to that's going to take us the longest to achieve, and that is the percent positivity. 2 weeks ago, that percentage was 11.1. As of the 26th of July, it was 11.4. So it had actually gone up slightly. That's the data that they are suggesting we use. I know Pinal County Health is on board with that as well, that it's good data to use. My request, and then the reason this on it, is to come together with the board and to ask that we might come up with a projected date of when we might project to reopen in person, so that we can share that with our teachers, we can share that with our staff, we can share that with our students and our community. So everybody at least has a projected time in which it might be safe to return. Again, we won't know for sure, and as this data continues to roll out, and so we won't know for sure. I've been asked by a couple of different people, do I have a projected date? I don't necessarily have a projected date that I can offer. All I can tell you is that I stay very connected with the Pinal County Superintendent Group. We meet every week on Wednesday. And right now in Pinal County, there are several districts, Maricopa, Florence, Coolidge, in general, that are close by, that have a projected date of return on September 8th after Labor Day. Again, that's projected. We also obviously know the elementary district has a date projected of October 19th after fall break. And now we learned as of yesterday, we have one district, Combs Unified, whose governing board is choosing not to use the rubric and are planning on reopening in person on Monday. So that's as much information I have from other districts in our county. So I now look to you as the board and guidance for a projected date that we might be able to communicate.
Just as a question in a conversation with Dr. Beebe, you mentioned something that you would really need once we potentially come up with a projected date to start school. You definitely need 2 weeks of a lead time to make sure that you're 100% ready for all schools to start. Was that correct?
That is correct. So as we are looking at dates, what I need to tell you is it's not as easy as it might look. If we don't get, let's just say we get data on a Thursday morning that we've now met those benchmarks. For us to turn around and be ready to receive kids in the classroom is going to take a little bit of time. We've got to give transportation time to prepare, to communicate, and get routes established for kids that need to ride the bus. We need to get food services ready to go and make sure that we have our meals ready. And we need to give our staff time to make sure their classrooms are ready and ready to go. It's important to remember that right now, while we're in flux, while I am encouraging staff to come into the building, we are allowing staff to come into the building and teachers to come to the building and teach on Monday. Not all staff is coming into the building and may not be able to come into the building yet. So we're going to need a little bit of time to open the doors once we hit that benchmark. So the fact that it's 2 weeks in the rear and that we're going to need a little bit of time to flip the switch, I think a 2-week lag is a safe assumption that that's what it's going to need for us to hit the data and open the doors.
So if we were to go month to month, that probably would put you in a bind to get me ready. I mean, because
Well,
we're only talking, if let's say it's 2 weeks from, I mean,
yeah.
if we were to go a month from now, we're opening up, that means you only have 2 weeks to get ready.
No, I'm not saying that. I mean, if we knew we had a date, like let's say you picked a date a month from now, and that's when we were a projected date, 2 weeks prior to that date, if I would need to know the data was the benchmarks have been hit and we're ready to go. If I have 2 weeks to communicate and get ready, then we're fine. I just need 2 weeks on the front end of any date we're going to open so that I can make sure that we've met the benchmarks, if that's what the board is going to use to guide us, and that we've got all of our ducks in a row as far as the people we need to get ready. So as long as we hit the date, we hit the benchmarks 2 weeks in advance, and I had 2 weeks before the date we were going to project to open, we should be fine to get buildings open efficiently and effectively to receive our kids.
Is there a good time in September that with our schedule, that is a good time to schedule?
I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of districts were initially looking at the Monday after Labor Day, just trying to buy a little time. Now remember, most of those districts made that decision prior to the benchmarks coming out. While we were all waiting for the benchmarks, they had already decided that was the decision they were going to make.
So is that date September the 14th?
No, the date after Labor Day was September 8th.
Oh, the Monday after.
September the 8th, okay.
It's a Tuesday after Labor Day, because Labor Day is the 7th. So a Monday after Labor Day was all over, that would be the 14th.
Okay,
So,
okay.
And just for clarification, when you come back at that time, you're coming back under the hybrid model, correct?
Correct. So just to look at the benchmarks for us to come back in the hybrid model, the percent positivity needs to be at 7% or less for 2 consecutive weeks. That gives us the blessing, or according to the rubrics and with board permission, that gives us the ability to come back in hybrid. For us to come back 100% in person, we would have to see that percent positivity drop down to 5% for 2 consecutive weeks, and then with governing board approval. So we have quite a ways to go. We're at 11.1, 11.4 in the last 2.
But Dr. Beebe,
Yes.
but Dr. Beebe, we're looking at coming back in the hybrid right now, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
That's what we do.
We're all, yeah. Whatever date you guys would project to be reopen is a projected date to reopen in hybrid or online only. We're not talking about in person at all.
I just want a clarification so that there's no misunderstanding amongst anybody, that when we come back in the initial time, that we are opening strictly in a hybrid or virtual campus community.
Correct.
I think that what we had promised our parents and families in late June is that we were offering 2 choices, and one of them was going to be the hybrid model, where we're coming back in a low density classroom model, and that was one of the choices that the parents have signed on to.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing's changed. What is it, about 60-40? 60% want hybrid in school and 40%
That's
want
correct.
virtual?
Yeah, we're about
That's correct.
65-35 is about where we are right now in our numbers.
Yeah.
65% in person, modified in person, about 35 to 37% online only. That's what our parents have said. However, I've talked to both principals, and I can tell you right now, we have parents who are contacting the schools already, and now that the benchmarks are out, and with the unknown of when we might reopen, are already contacting the schools and requesting to move out of the modified in person into online. So that number may increase over the next week or so. I don't know. Until we set a date and communicate that, we won't know what parents may or may not choose. We will allow some flexibility until school starts. Once school officially starts, then we're going to lock people into that decision for the semester.
Okay.
What do you think about?
I would like to make a motion that we open at September the 14th.
So September the 14th as a projected reopening date for modified in person and the 2 models that we've shared.
Correct.
Is that pending the benchmarks have been met?
Correctly.
Okay.
Can I second that?
You certainly can. Or you
I'll
can.
second that. Any more discussion?
Yeah, and some discussion, just to clarify, we're still planning on making our decisions based upon what the parameters that the Arizona Department of Health Services came out with, and then the school superintendent came out with and followed up and recommended that these were the parameters as far as coming back for students.
That's you, the board.
I think we're all following, it's all.
Well, I
following
think-
benchmarks, yeah.
Who's talking?
Go ahead.
You are.
You are, Chuck.
Okay. Okay, I think that, I think we'd like to all say that, okay, that the recommended guidelines, again, they are recommended. They're not mandatory. So I think that the recommended guidelines is what we want to shoot for, but I think that also plays in there some flexibility in there.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with a whole lot of flexibility. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's a you call.
Okay?
I'd like to chime in whenever my opportunity comes up.
You're up.
Okay, long as the metrics are met that have been established by either the county or the state, I think it's the county that approved those, I would say that I would like to see on my own, to see the schools open up in a virtual or hybrid model 4 weeks after those metrics have been met.
All three metrics.
Yes.
So you want to delay until the metrics, all of the metrics have been met, and then 4 weeks after that, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, and I think, Joe, and I can appreciate where you're going from. I guess the difficulty with that is that doesn't give us anything concrete for parents or staff or our community to latch onto as far as a potential return and, to plan. I think what I'm talking about is giving the flexibility from the board. For instance, if you were to choose the date that Member Wright has suggested as the 14th, that would mean for us to open up on the 14th and using the metrics, that would mean when we look at the metric on Thursday, September 3rd, we would have had to have met, by that 3rd, we're going to have met the benchmarks, so that we can start preparing for the 14th. So that would, in a sense, give us additional. And that would give us almost a month because it's 2 weeks in the rear of the data, and it would be 2 weeks later before we actually start. So in a sense, it would be about a month's time before when we met the rubrics and we actually start.
Right. Thank you.
And another thing.
I think it's imperative that we keep our promise to our parents when we started this out that we were going to give them choices. And I think the parents have made it pretty clear that they want choices by signing on 65% to the in-person. So I think we need to make sure that we're doing all we can to open on a hybrid in-person model as quickly as possible.
Based on safety, correct?
Based on
Not
safety.
just sake of as quick as possible, but based on safety for teachers, staff, and students, correct?
Well, again, I think we have to look at the metrics and say they are recommended metrics and not mandatory metrics. I think it goes on the basis of the school, of our board, and what we think is best for our students and our parents.
Yeah, I want to hear teachers and staff in there all in that same conversation.
Okay, I think they're all included, because I think they were all included.
I've heard parents and teachers. I've heard parents and kids. I haven't heard about the rest of our staff.
Okay, but I believe the survey, did include teachers in that survey also. And so they were all part of that 65% survey.
Well, so far, everything that we have done has been off of the recommended, not the mandatory. I mean, nothing has been mandatory. So everything we've done has been what's been recommended. And I would feel comfortable doing it off of what is recommended. And the one thing about it is obviously we change our dates. And I think if we go month to month, maybe that gives us the opportunity to review. We'll have another meeting before, obviously, the 14th comes around. It'll give us an opportunity to see where we are. And if we need to move our dates again, then we can. Every date that we put out there has not been cast in stone. We've moved them according to the benchmarks and the recommendations. And that would be the way I feel comfortable going forward, is with the recommendations.
I think I'd be comfortable with Mrs. Hawkins' recommendations too.
So to clarify, at least what I've heard, because I have to communicate with the rest of the district, is that right now the date of September 14th has been put on the table and seconded as a potential date. The question is that date pending all three benchmarks are met, or is that we're going to come back hoping that all three benchmarks are met? So I think that's the big decision, because if the benchmarks get met, you as a board always have the opportunity to bring us back earlier if they were to be met earlier, but then like President Hawkins just mentioned, we can certainly review in the September board meeting, and if it doesn't look like we're aligning, you always have time to push that date out a little farther if we think it might be necessary as well. So that's something you as a board are going to have to decide, is a date, and is it with or without all three benchmarks being met?
They're recommending that all three be met before we come back in person at all. So I would, my opinion would be all three need to be met.
And all we have to do is get to 10%, isn't that correctly, on the ones that get through the hybrid?
No, we have to get to 7% positivity. They put in the matrix that was put out in public, 5 to 10%, but what we're being told as superintendents is 7% is the actual number we're looking at.
Okay.
And that's the one I believe, just the data so far, that's going to be the metrics that's going to take us the longest to get to.
Because of more testing.
Because of more testing and the percent positivity. So.
And I just wanted just to refresh my mind what our attorney kind of mentioned to us the other day as far as his recommendation to us coming back.
Well, because we were in executive session, so not to disclose anything discussed in the executive session, our attorney has always advised that we follow the recommendations of the medical experts.
Okay.
So I guess revise the motion, Chuck, or to,
The motion right now is to potentially open on September 14th in modified in-person if the benchmarks are met at that time.
Fully met.
That's the,
okay. So
I would agree to that amendment to the motion, yes.
that was the motion. That's what I had written down originally. And said it was.
So that is the current motion right now, is to potentially open again on September 14th, pending the three benchmarks have been met, and it is deemed safe to do so.
Okay, so I already have a motion and a second for that, so,
That's good. And one other point of discussion, when kids are coming back and enrolling and signing into school, since we're going to be paying an extra premium for insurance,
Yes.
my preference and I would be that we ask and hopefully require a waiver.
Yes.
Is so for insurance reasons for the district.
And I don't know if you want to do that. That's another piece I need to know that's part of this. I don't know if you want to vote on the date, and then we can talk about the board's decision, waiver versus acknowledgement, because that's another piece of information I need from you today so that we can communicate it. So I would recommend maybe you vote on the date and what's already on the table, and then let's talk about waiver and acknowledgement.
can we do that?
Or I guess, no, Mary's saying, I guess it's one agenda item, so I guess we need to have that conversation. So let's just have it quickly. So again, per our attorney, we have, at the board's direction, we have gone ahead and we've applied for and are paying for the retainer so that we will have liability insurance, COVID related. There are two rules of thumb that are on the table that our attorney shared with us, and I'll just revisit them. If we require all parents who are bringing their children to, or allowing their children to come back to campus in a modified in-person, if we have them sign a waiver, which means they are holding the school district harmless for COVID illness or whatever, COVID-like illness and things, we would have a zero deductible for any case that may go to court, litigation, whatever else. If we have our parents sign an acknowledgement, acknowledging that they were aware there's a COVID pandemic, but they won't necessarily guarantee they won't hold the district harmless, we would have a $10,000 per incident deductible. And then of course, if we do nothing, we have a $20,000 per incident deductible that we are responsible for as a district. So I just need to know where you as a board stand on parents. Do we sign an acknowledgement? Do we have them sign a waiver?
I vote for waiver.
I think fiduciarily, for the protection of the district and all of the staff and the balance of the people, I think you really have a waiver, a full-on waiver is your only choice to choose.
Okay,
I agree with
I
that.
agree.
I would agree with Jack's opinion.
well, it sounds like all four of you are on the same page, so that's easy then. So then
Okay.
can we add that to the motion that not only, so that we're looking at September 14th as a potential date of starting school, modified in person and online, pending the the rubrics have all three been met. And in doing so, we will require all students and their parents to sign a waiver to return to modified in person.
Yeah, okay.
I'll vote now.
We're all in agreement there?
So we now get,
Yeah.
we need
And
a
just,
motion
for some
and a
reason,
second for the
if I
amended.
just as a kid or a student who is attending virtually, but chooses to take advantage of extracurricular clubs,
Yes,
athletics, any kind of associated with a district, that person who is attending virtually, if they choose to do something that's associated with on campus, will be required to sign the same waiver.
it's actually a different waiver, Member Hennis, and I've already put that out to principals and athletic directors. It's already a mandate. All students participating in anything extracurricular in our district does not have a choice. They have to sign a waiver or they may not participate. So it's a different waiver than attending the school day, but we've already put that in place and it is already happening. So,
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
and also to add to that, we have another waiver sent to us by the trust that we will have at the front desk of the district office and at the front desk of all schools. And we will require any and all visitors we allow onto our campus to also sign a waiver before we will allow them on campus.
So
I think that's what we did have to do.
Yeah.
we need somebody
Okay, that
to,
sounds good.
we need somebody to approve the modified,
We need a
the amended
motion, yeah,
motion.
need a motion for the amended
I
motion.
make a motion that we adopt the previous stated motion and all the amendments that went with it.
Why don't you just have Mary read the motion?
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so the motion is to begin modified in person on September 14th if all benchmarks are met and required all students' parents to sign a waiver prior to attending school.
That'll work.
Okay,
Second?
for a second.
I second that motion.
Okay, Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis. Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
and Ms. Hawkins.
Yes. Okay. Last item, motion to adjourn.
Okay,
I'll move to adjourn.
second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.